What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Connector Talk. Let me plug my headphones in. 1 second. And guys, this is a full week of Connector Talks every single day, and I ended it off with a bang with my business partner, Chrystal Clifton. Now, first of all, how are you doing, Chrystal?
I'm doing fantastic, centered and focused on making a difference.
I know. We just did like a little what do you call that? What would you call that? Conditioning?
It's a take five. So what you do is you just take 5 breaths to get in the zone so you can get ready for whatever you have to achieve. And convincing yourself sometimes is more than just writing something on the wall. You also have to really take that breath and do the physiological step, which is touching your fingertips and convincing yourself, every day in every way, I'm stronger and stronger. Yes, or I got this, whatever it is. But when you touch your body, you actually trigger something that allows it to be stored in your body and in your memory in a different way. So
absolutely. And it sounds crazy, guys, like talking and breathing and doing all these crazy things, but I mean, look at every successful person. I bet you they got some of those things.
Oh, but anyway, for sure. They have to.
So let me talk you up for a second, Chrystal. Chrystal has owned a few very successful businesses, a lot in the wine industry, business development industry. She's been featured on Vogue, The Today Show, Sunset Magazine, Food and Wine Magazine, Wine Spectator, New York Times, San Francisco Chronicle. I'm probably missing some, but we talked briefly. Like she's been everywhere, and I brought her on. We have a nice mutual relationship because we're both helping each other. And I brought her on to help us because, we're a brand new company. And the way she told me how she helps people connect, not just to themselves and not just to each other as a team, but to their audience is super intriguing. So you want to talk a little bit about why it's important to be a connector and to really invest in the human to human connections in a business?
Absolutely. One of the most important things that I work on when I do my business coaching or I do my business consulting is really explaining that businesses are a blessing, and they really, if you look at what a business is, it's to serve a basic human need. Mm-hmm. The human need we all have, we all come out of the womb wanting to be heard, recognized, and understood. And so when you think about a business, most people talk about a business as a profit. I want the goal or the reason or the purpose of my business is profit. And the underlying theme that you'll hear me and every time I work with somebody is that the purpose of your business is connection. The goal is profit. So connection, like what you do, is really, really amazing because if we connect to people, if we take the time to listen to them and recognize them and hear them in a way that they want to be heard, and we know our voice and we know our vision in order to communicate that. And when we connect to our team or our clients, we make a difference not only in our lives, but their lives. And just think about what the world would be like if everybody viewed their business that way, as an opportunity to change somebody's life. The world would be such an amazing place if we viewed business as blessings and connections, not as stress, not as debt, not as this distraction from living.
Okay. So, I mean, that all sounds great and I buy into it, but how do I start building these connections? Where does it start? I mean, connection can be misinterpreted or people can jump to conclusions about what a connection is. How would you define what a successful connection looks like in business?
That's a great question. So one thing that I always do when I work with somebody is ask them, what is your vision of success? Because some people think that success is money. Some people think that success is having somebody work for them for 15 years. And some people think that success is that my business has lasted 47 years or that I went past the 1-year mark. So success is going to be different for everybody. But what I will say that I believe success is when you get up every day and you have not only the grit to get up and do the day and do what needs to be done, but you have the passion and the heart to do it. And you're not just going because you feel like you have to, but you actually have a deep desire. That's my purpose, is to help people find that connection within them. And then a true connection past that, the end goal of having proper connections is profit. Because like we talked about in one of the trainings.
Because profit means you're helping them, right? It means they're buying what you got, and it means that you're serving them.
So there's a beautiful book. It's bigger than a Bible. It's about this thick. It's called Thou Shalt Prosper. And Rabbi Dr. Lapin, he talks about basically profit or money when you're in business is your clients clapping and thanking you.
Sure. There we go.
So
isn't that crazy? How like, right? I mean, you see this new generation of just heartfelt giving people, but they don't want to do business. And it's like, when you say things like that, it just flips the script. It's like, no, guys, business is when you can sustainably help people. It's when people can come together and truly support you. And it's like, and the best people in the world that have the best ideas, they don't want to go in business. So it's like, I hear you here. I hear you here. I really hope that's a great way to look at it.
Yes. And that's one of the number one things that I see over and over and over again is that this business spirit, this idea of creation, when you have an innovative spirit, it's exactly what we need. We need innovators to create things we've never thought about or how to connect to new ideas. Mm-hmm. Innovation is enthusiasm and arousal. So whenever we're in that state of creation, everybody's excited. Uh-huh. But if you don't get out of that into focusing on what actually needs to be done so that you can have your audience clapping for you with money, mm-hmm. then your innovation stays a hallucination.
Sure. That's a good way to put it. But you can't have one without the other, right? You still need that innovation. Yep. I heard, all you need to do to have a successful business is innovation and marketing. You need to help people in new ways and be focused on helping them. You got to get the word out. And then also and
you have to have the systems, because the way that you're going to connect to somebody, let's say you get the word out and you do this amazing job to promote to them. And then suddenly they have no idea, well, how do I do that? How do I get this? And they're left not knowing how to give you applause, how to clap for you by giving you money. You have to have the systems in place so that somebody knows, okay, imagine that you're basically getting their autographs and their thank you cards is what is being signed for when they're buying something for you. They're thanking you back for whatever you're doing to help connect with them. But that connection, the ability to get the money, means that you have to connect with them truly.
Cool. Well, another huge thing I learned from you, Chrystal, is that everybody's different, right? Which means everybody connects to each other, to themselves, and to their clients in different ways. And I kind of want to talk to you about what makes somebody different and what do you provide to people to where they can analyze themselves and know that how they're different. Because you showed me how I'm different. You showed my team how they're different. And it's like totally shifted the dynamic of how we work together and how we capitalize on each other's strengths. So how do people figure out if they're different, how they're different, and how do they capitalize on that?
So one of the first things I do whenever I work with a company, because I'll come in and I'll do an assessment or I'll work with them, either the executive level or a business owner, is defining their advantages, because we all speak naturally one of 7 languages. We all have an ability that is a natural gift of how we are presented and how the world sees us.
Can you list a couple of those languages?
Oh, yeah. It's important. Sally Hogshead has created, it's called the Science of Fascination. And this is one tool I use to help identify people is, do you speak of these 7 languages? There's the language of power, which is authority, meaning that you naturally take leadership roles, you naturally like to be in control. Or do you speak the language of innovation, which is, okay, how do I think out of the box? How can I create something different? Then there's the language of prestige, and this is the language of quality. This is the language that really you distinguish yourself differently, but always with the highest standards. There's the language of passion, which is one of my top languages. Passion is the human connection. It's an emotional response that no matter what, you love to talk about how it's going to make you feel, or you like to connect with people about how they're feeling. Then there's the language of mystique. And this is so interesting. This is definitely one of my weaker spots, which is good. And I own that. Mystique is the language of really listening and staying silent so that you can make a very analytical choice. Mystique means that you really are the language of listening more than the language of talking. There is the language of trust, which is a very valuable thing, which is loyalty. You're always driven towards my word is law. I do what I say I'm going to do. And the 7th language is one of the most important things. And this was the aha moment you and I both had, which is the language of alert.
Alert, yeah.
Okay, rarely does an innovator also have the natural ability to think about how to have all the details, the data of money, deadlines, budgets, all of that at the same time. That takes another side of our brain. It takes another language that naturally may not come to a big innovative spirit.
Yep.
So
totally got it. Is there a way to figure out which, like, how do you help people figure out which one they are? Because there's people out there right now that are like, I relate with all of those a little bit. I mean, how do you know which one you are?
So the easiest way is to take the assessment, and it's 28 questions. It takes less than 2 minutes
Cool.
because it's a triple blind, so you can't be tricked. You can't act like you're going to be somebody different. Mm-hmm. And it's super, super, super basic questions. And that way people will get an email saying, okay, this is who you are. These are naturally we have 2 languages we speak. So when we know of those 2 languages, when they're coupled together, that becomes our archetype. So for you, you're the ringleader. When we did the work together, we found out that you're the ringleader, which is an incredible thing because look at what you're doing right now with the connector talks. Yep. You are this ringleader bringing people together. You're connecting. It's an incredible, innovative way to show your passion for connection.
Yep.
And
so just so you guys know, ringleader is power and passion. So the way I've grown to understand it is that, I can, as a person, captivate audiences and grab attention, but relying on my team and other people, my connections for the show, to create the thing I'm trying to create. And it can't be done by myself. Yeah, I could be the one that starts the conversation. That's kind of what I got from it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the other people on your team are, when we looked at them, and they were alert driven, but they also were prestige and power, meaning they understand the level of authority that you bring and they understand the level of quality that you bring. That's hugely important because then suddenly we have the ace come in.
Jake.
Jake's the ace. He is a great team member because now you guys understand your vision and you understand the advantages you both bring to reach your vision. He knows that he's going to be relied on for alert, the details.
Just so you guys know, my project manager, his name's Jake, and he tested for power and alert. And I'm dormant in alert, meaning I need the detail-oriented person. So my project manager is detail-oriented. He's my right-hand guy, and I would have never known how important he is to my business if I didn't take these archetype tests. So Jake is like my ace. I also got my artisan over here. We got a couple more, but we'll kind of we'll go past that for a second. So after you know who you are and you know your team, I mean, what is one to do with all of this information, and how do we use it to not just connect with each other, but build our business, right? Because it's great to go into the emotions and know who we are as people and great things, but we need to be, traffic, helping people, serving people.
Absolutely.
How does this transmit into our business?
Well, I would say one of the number one mistakes, before we leave the subject of just their team, the number one mistake that I see over and over again is that people, when they're starting a business or even when they're leading a business, is they tend to hire people like them. So if somebody's passion driven, sometimes they hire passion, and suddenly you have a team full of thumbs. And if you all are a thumb, you all have the same advantage, you're not going to get the job done, right? We all have different thumbs into different fingers. So that's really key. The next thing I would say is that once you know the voice you bring, you know your natural language, which I call your voice. This is how you're going to project what it is. You need to know your vision. Because if you know your vision, you know your purpose, you know your rallying cry, you know exactly what you stand for, then everybody's voice can complement that vision, right? It's
exactly.
If you want to be a solo artist and you want to go out there and you just want to solo it, that's great, but you have to be ready to be the one-man show. But you have to, if you're in symphony, you have to know what song you're all singing, and you have to know what note you're to play. A symphony isn't one person. So when you talk about the thing that we talked about, just symphony of breakthroughs, is that, okay, how do you have one breakthrough? Great, this is my voice. Now what's your vision? And when those come together, this golden connection happens, because your clients will naturally gravitate to your authenticity. If your voice and your vision are together, you're going to gain more attention from them. You're going to gain them to trust you, and they're going to want to spend more time and money. What we talked about is the average attention span of a customer.
Sure.
Less than 9 seconds.
Yeah.
That's scary. That's a goldfish.
That is a gold. That's worse than a goldfish, in fact.
It's worse than a goldfish. Yes, a goldfish has 9 seconds. So,
which is interesting, because it's not so much that we can't hold attention for 8 seconds. It's like you have that. It's almost like the second someone comes in contact with you, there's a stopwatch, and it's up to you to fascinate them in that much time. So if you don't know how your game plan is on fascinating people, you're done. It's like going to the bar to try to pick up girls and then like walking up to the girl and like spending more than 8 seconds. You know what I'm saying? Like you need to have your game plan, and you don't know that unless you spend time thinking about how do I fascinate people? What is my strategy for that? That's great.
And so if you know your language, your fascination style, fascination means that you're going to spellbound somebody. It means that you're going to intrigue somebody. They're going to be so bewitched with you, which is where the term originally came from, was witches, right? They were fascinating. They were so engaged that they couldn't think of anything else. So when you're in business and you want to get a client, one of the threats you have in business is distraction. And then the other one is discounting, because you become a commodity. Because if somebody doesn't pay a lot of attention to you, they're looking at your price and moving on. So if you want profits, you need to be ready to share your vision with a proper voice so that your authenticity comes out, and you're going to cut through the noise and you're going to stand out.
That's what we've been talking about a lot. Like, you have to not try to, because if you're just like everybody else, it's a fight to the bottom on who's cheapest. You got to be prolific. You got to know what makes you different and just amplify the crap out of that, or no one is going to be able to differentiate you. You need to get people emotionally involved before you move them to the logic. Because, whatever you're passionate about, or before logic came into the realm and you really justified why you were passionate, you had an emotional connection. And and as business owners, sometimes we try to constantly push the logic on people. Like for me, video, it's like, it's the highest paid thing. It's this, it's this, it's this. But I forget why I fell in love with it. It was emotion first. So we need to bring people from emotion and bridge them to logic, just like we did in our own lives. So I totally agree. And it's
powerful.
You need that emotional fascination. Okay, well, we can't take too long, and I don't want to give away too many juicy things, but I want to end on, how does the individuals in a business combine together to create the archetype and the essence and the fascination of the entire business? Because you can archetype the business too, right? It's not just about the humans.
No, if you think about...
Oh, by the way, one more time, before you get into that, you guys ask your questions for Chrystal now before we hop off. Go ahead and throw them in as she answers this question.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
So when you think about, really quickly, what we talked about is that there's all these different ways to build the legs of your table, if your table is where you're serving the profit, right? So this leg of fascination is the one way to clarify, I truly am going to stand out. This is my voice, and I'm going to find my right customer, because when I fascinate them and that's how they see me, I'm going to draw them into me. Now, let me give you an example. A company like Volvo, for instance, they are based in a certain language. Their authentic language is trust. When you think about Volvo, it's very basic. People are there. It's trustworthy. It's safe. When you think about a car like Tesla, they're speaking the language of innovation. When you think about a car like a Rolls Royce, it's the language of prestige. It's the highest quality. When you think of maybe let's think of something else, maybe a brand that is going to be very, I'm trying to think of what's alert. FedEx is alert driven. Yeah. They think about their details. They think about how they're going to get you your package when they need to get it there. So every brand and every company needs to make sure they know what language they're speaking, because if a language, they can speak it louder. Well, speak it louder and speak it clear so that the audience hears them, because the communication, front, right? You only have 8 seconds, so you know what to talk about. And if you think about the bell curve of communication, if you try to speak all 7 different types of language right away, it's lost. If you know what is naturally your brand, it's actually going to be incredibly clear, and it's at the height point of communication that people will hear you. That's what matters. That's where your clients will connect with you, and they're going to Chanel sunglasses, the same glasses, all the way down to the same screws, were presented to 2 women. Sally Hogshead did this test where a group of women, they said, here's a pair of glasses and here's a pair of glasses. They were the same. And women were willing to pay 400% more for the sunglasses that had the Chanel logo. Wow. So you have to think Chanel, they know what they stand for and they get the results. So I help people know what they stand for, and they create a thriving business in a noisy marketplace. It's super, super important. That's incredible, Chrystal. Explain to them real quick, what are we doing together? So
give them a little sneak into, you know, why you you know what we're doing, how our businesses are going to come together and make
absolutely
a business baby or whatever you want to call it. You know,
so
we won't
how
call it
we're
like
going
that
to
again.
create our businesses. So for me, I have a true passion for connecting people to their ahas and their breakthroughs. So making sure that you learn a skill set in all different areas that I teach, which is the clarity, the communication, the collaboration, and the client connection. When you and I were talking about it, you have a skill that is amazing because you bring businesses to life. Mm-hmm. Your visual capabilities is exactly what people need right now to go into this era of business. And I know for me to be able to reach more people and follow my why so that business owners can truly find their level of success, that means that I need somebody as talented as you and your team to take it live. And I know that we can do amazing things because I believe as I work with businesses, they need your skills. They need to know how to create videos. They need to know how to create their business plans that incorporate additional revenue streams or additional video marketing. It's a win-win. It's a natural.
Yeah. So just to let you guys know tangibly what that looks like, I am going to be turning Chrystal Clifton's brain and her skill set into a program that you can go through to learn how to create and control these breakthroughs so that you can create deeper connections. And I don't want to pitch it, but deeper connections to yourself, to your team, and of course to your clients so that you are just helping and serving people while fascinating them along the way. All right. And profiting. All right. So before
results.
Yeah, results driven. All right. Anthony Hernandez has one question. What's more important in a business, skills or psychology?
You know what? You can learn skills. So your passion and your mindset is a lot harder to learn than the skill set. So how you bring your game and what you think about is way more important in my opinion. Sure.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Skill sets can totally be learned. And, you know, just
for hiring too.
I'm just going to end on this conversation I had with this designer. I asked him, it's been sticking in my head and I'm still trying to understand what he means. But I asked him, because I started working with him when he had a 6-person team. Maybe you can give me some advice here on what he means. I asked him, I said, how are you able to grow from 6 people to 45 people in a year and retain the quality you, just retain quality? How do you find that many talented designers? And he told me, he said, it's not talent or skill. It's that we're listening to what you guys want and need. And I was like, and I kind of get that, except I still think there's talent involved. But he said it's all because he's looking at what we want. Because what he would make would be different than what, you know, he actually makes for us. He says, we make what you want, and that's how we stay good. And that isn't that interesting? Well, it's beautiful because it ties into what my second training which is the purpose is all he said to you. They're a business that makes what the client wants out of art or out of furniture, right? Mm-hmm. That's it. If your rally cry and your vision statement for your business is that easy, it gives the freedom for naturally people that work with you to continue to follow. Got it. They know their why, they know their purpose, why they're there. They don't have a big, huge employee handbook that has to be constantly looked at and scratched off and I did this right, did this wrong. That takes a lot of energy. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Chrystal, for joining me. It's Chrystal Clifton, everybody. She's a business coach. She's a breakthrough coach. And if you were just kind of lost there and, you know, you have good ideas, you have breakthroughs perhaps, but you don't know how to control them. You don't know how to siphon them, get them in line so that you're getting profit and helping more people, hit up Chrystal. She's linked in this post. Also, look out for our program that we have going on. Yes, that's going to come out hopefully in July. And you know what I can do, Nick? I can also provide a link for people to go and take either they can choose to do the sample assessment, which is just the overview, or they can also do the full assessment. And that alone, if somebody wants to just dive in and see a little bit about themselves, it's a great way to do it. Great. Thank you so much, Chrystal. Give me that link. I'll put it in the comment section below. Thank you so much, guys. Another episode of the Connector Talk in the books. This is our first week. We're going to go Monday through Friday every single day, bring you a new connector. Everybody needs to be a connector in today's age. All right, guys. I'll see you next time. Thank you, Chrystal.